Monty. Morning, Charlotte. We down. Morning, then. You down fixing this afternoon?
Yes.
At 1:30 on tops.
Yep.
Away from it too long. Don't you?
Pretty sure I do.
Yes, yeah. Right, everything's set up for that. Then we're at 1:45. It'll only take about 10 minutes that way.
Okay.
Then 1:45, we're at the village hall.
Yep.
We get 1 or 2 members of the group that's doing all these baskets.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah.
So yeah, we're there. So right, I'll see you later.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
definitely.
Yeah, you all right?
Yeah, you.
I'm here.
Yeah, it is. Or as a hint. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Such a big thing, though, to all the country and everything. Probably are doing that in years to come.
Did you say council proposal wasn't clear?
He wasn't sure whether it was doing it or not. Yes, it's
Right, go on to spot whether the
o'clock, and I assumed that we're going out live to the multitude. Amy?
Stream's just started, yes.
Right.
You're live.
And welcome to you. Is it your first meeting, Amy?
It is, yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
This is Amy Bryan, everyone. She took over from Donna, and you had plenty of experience in this thing, haven't you, Amy? She's nodding. Right,
Yes.
We'll make a start. Welcome, everyone. Any apologies? Looking at the screen and looking in here, I think we've got a full house.
Sarah Sternberg and Pam Brown, Chair.
SSPM, yeah, PB, sorry. I've got no urgent items of business. Any declarations of interest?
Yes, Chair. I declare an interest in item 11 and we'll leave the room when you come to discuss that.
Right, thanks, Liz. Anyone else? No. Minutes of previous meeting, you'll find these itemized at page 5. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and finally 12. Are you happy that these are?
I'll
these
move
reflect
them as
one
a
last
true and
time?
correct
Yeah.
record, Chair.
I'll
Right.
second that, Chair.
Second, all in favour? That's carried. Next one is the matters referred from scrutiny, which I have none. The budget and policy framework items, I have none. Non-key decisions, we start at item 5. This is Clive, and it's page 13.
Great. Thanks, Chair, for that. I'm not going to speak too much first off on this because Teresa's going to give us a presentation, but I do reserve the right, Chair, to speak a bit of a summary, shall we say, at the end of the presentation when we take questions in it all. But really, the purpose of the report today is to seek executive approval for the 2021 revised budget for general fund, housing revenue account, and indeed capital programme. At that, I'll leave it. I'll hand over to Teresa and say come back at the end if that's okay, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. You're doing a presentation, Teresa?
There you go. Right, we started the revised budget process earlier this year to make sure we got a good understanding of how COVID was affecting our financial position. Next slide, please, Amy. Starting with general fund. In February, the budget for 2021 was approved by council and reported that we would have an estimated shortfall of 290,000. That's the figure in the first column. Current budget is a position we reported at Q2. And the third column, 79,000, is where we think we'll be at the 31st of March 2021. So I'll break this movement down over the next few slides. Savings made between the February 2020 report and the Q2 monitoring report. Well, the council tax increase agreed in March 20 meant we were 111,000 better off straight away. We went through the salary budgets at the end of June, and through maternity leave, vacant posts not filled, and restructuring changes, we were able to remove 169,000 from the budgets. There were also some small miscellaneous savings, as you can see. Next slide, please, Amy. Oh, yeah. Then we started the revised budget process in earnest. Before this stage, we'd not included anything for the effect of COVID, which I'll talk about in more detail shortly. When we've updated our calculations for debt charges and investment interest, the rates we have to use are not in our favour. We've done an investment in November where we're going to earn 0.1%. The financial effect of poor rates is a cost of 136,000. We've again gone through the salary budgets and can remove 246,000 again due to maternity leave and vacant posts we're not going to fill for the rest of the year. I've also reduced the saving we usually get from being in the business rate pool by 136,000 because I don't think realistically that we can rely on it being there. If it does materialise, we'll put it in the NNDR Growth Protection Reserve. That's just in case our arrears for business rates mean that the pool doesn't perform. Next slide, please. The miscellaneous savings are a net figure. We've had increases on the cost of external audit of £23,000. This is due to them needing more assurance due to the pandemic on our pension figures and our asset figures. We've also had an increase in costs of £134,000 for changes to the Strategic Alliance joint working arrangements. This will include the initial increase in environmental health and the reduction in income from staff who aren't now shared that were before. But the cost of benefits payable is reduced by £99,000, and we've also managed to find £102,000 in small reductions across all departments. The transfer to reserves is the net savings from the revised budget process being put into the NNDR reserve, ready for future changes to government funding. This table was the position before we entered the second lockdown, 23rd of October. It will change now. We've already received a tranche 4 payment of grant, which I'll go into detail about on the next slide. But basically at the moment, the grants and compensation repayments we're going to receive are still meaning, on the face of it, that we're doing not too badly financially from COVID in 2021, where we've not been able to claim loss of income on such as industrial unit rents. I've covered the loss with the expenditure grant. Our collection figures on council tax and business rates and council dwellings are down, but hopefully this is temporary, and the government has put a scheme in place to allow us to carry collection fund losses over 3 years, so our share won't hit the general fund next year, which it should do if this other scheme wasn't in place. Next, thank you. The payment we've received from the government for tranche 4 is £448,000 to cover our expenditure. We've had a number of inquiries from parish councils who, as I'm sure you're aware, cannot claim any grants or compensation on their losses from the government. The government advice is for them to speak to the district council. Therefore, to provide them with some financial assistance, we've split the tranche 4 grant payment that we've received based on the amount each parish precepts on us, and we'll pay the amount on the table over to them. This is a perfectly acceptable expense for us to pay out of the grant, and we're not the only authority that's doing it. On to the HRA. There wasn't a lot of movement between the original and Q2 budget, which is the first and second 2 columns. The expenditure to be funded by reserves was approved, as it was increased and approved during February to September, but there was no other change to the surplus at the bottom. There hasn't been a lot of change to the surplus after we've done the revised budget, but there are some ups and downs that net off to the 11,000 reduction. Next slide, please. The biggest variance is the reduction in the dwelling rents. The number of voids is higher than we estimated due to a combination of keeping properties void deliberately because capital scheme is planned, the suspension of lettings in the early months of the pandemic, and for 4 weeks while the new IT system went live. This is mitigated by a reduction in salaries for vacant posts of £76,000, the amount spent with Travis Perkins being reduced due to lockdown, and a reduction in utility budgets due to the capital scheme Safe and Warm. There's also been a reduction in computer software costs. Extra expenditure has been included, however, of £51,000 to pay disturbance allowance for Tib Shelf flats when they've been demolished. Capital programme, as the slide says, we've looked at the capital programme, and where a scheme is not likely to be spent in 2021, we've moved the expenditure and financing to next year. A breakdown of the capital programme is shown at Appendix 4 to the report if you want to see the detail. We're in talks with MHCLG about the 1-for-1 capital receipts that should have been used for financing the capital programme this year, or they needed to be repaid. They've agreed to extend the deadline for all councils actually to December due to the pandemic, and we've been updating them every quarter on the likely spend since. So we think we can spend up to December, but we've got a lot that need to be spent by 31st of March, which we're talking to them about now. On to reserves and balances. Both the general fund and HRA balance are being used this year and the next to fund the increase in pension funds that were put up, pension fund costs that were put on one side from 1920. That's why they're not the normal 2 million. A number of schemes have been financed by the Transformation Reserve during the year with the intention of generating income or reducing costs. The increase in the NNDR Growth Protection Reserve since the original budget is the surplus from 1920. This will be a big help when the government funding reductions eventually take place. In summary, COVID expenditure and the loss in fees and charges income is covered by the grant we've received or the income compensation scheme. The indirect effects, such as reduction in investment income and increase in debt charges, is a problem, as is the effect on our business rates and council tax income. Once the furlough and similar government support end, we may end up with empty industrial units and therefore lower rents. In light of this, any underspends will be transferred to reserves to help in future years for both the HRA and general fund. For this reason, I have no hesitation in saying our level of reserves is adequate to fund potential risks we face. A further positive note to end on is that again, we've managed to fund the capital programme without incurring any borrowing, which saves us costs in MRP. This is something we aim to do for the whole of the MTFP, which I'll bring to you in February. We're really not in a bad place at revised budget stage, but we'll be bringing the MTFP in February, which could look quite different. We're unsure how long the government will continue to pay us compensation for the loss of our income on. It will probably take a while to fully recover and may need supporting from reserves for 6 months. The spending review is due to be announced on Wednesday, and we might see the beginning of where COVID is going to be funded from. We're still waiting to see what the rollover of New Homes Bonus, Revenue Support Grant and business rates will mean for us in 2021-22, and when the postponed fair funding review will happen, if it happens at all. That's it.
Thanks,
Any
Teresa.
questions?
I think it was a comprehensive run through, but it does demonstrate that we're not in a bad place, because Teresa's got nothing untoward to report, but we can't be complacent, and I'm sure Clive is going to tell us now that we need to earn some money. Clive, you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I try and be optimistic, I suppose, in these words at the end of the day, but at the same time, I have to keep my eye on where we are going with balances in it all and where we are going with reserves. Whilst Teresa's painted a relatively rosy picture at the end of the day, it doesn't actually reflect, I don't think, the position that we were looking at in Q1 and Q2. Because at this stage we're now starting to see, the effects that COVID's having on our reserves and everything else in it all. I mean, you can see this because the general fund costs have increased. Just one example of it all. We are losing money from the business rates pool. That's the pool we're in across Derbyshire with other local authorities. Now, we've had to. It's always been good to us in the past. Have ended up getting more money out of it than doing it on, just on ourselves. But it's looking though, that is going to be reduced again, as Teresa's pointed out in that presentation. Incomes, fees and charges are reduced. We know that from such things as leisure centre and everything. And we've got lots of investment income as well from it all. So there again, we're losing that. This is all, I suppose, contributing to really, a less favourable outturn now than we were probably thinking when we're looking through Q2 stuff at end. It's something we do need to keep us eye on it. As again, we've mentioned within that presentation, as a revenue account, due to lettings and voids not being done as quick as we need to be, we are losing money on that side as well. But so we do need to start and try and, increase the rate at which we do lettings to get the rents and stuff in it all. Capital programme, we've pulled, I think it's about 2.38 million out of capital programme projects this year and carried them forward to next year. That's not really a problem in it all, but it does mean we're not going to get the work done this year, and we do have to do it. But that's not really causing us too much problem. I think I've got to sort of say we're relatively comfortable now, but things are getting worse, and I think this has been demonstrated with reduced, as I say, income and spends going up. We've got to really be prudent in the spending. We've got to watch what we are spending. And we can only, as I keep saying, use the reserves once. Once we've spent them, they've gone and we can't get them back. So, we've got to be sensible in that. And that's why it's important that the NNDR reserve and that, is topped up, because that's helping us through over the medium-term financial plan over the next few years. And it also need to keep an eye on that. We've got a duty, and we've got to make sure we have balanced budgets everywhere. We can't set an unbalanced budget at the end of the day, because we're then breaking sort of law in it all. So we've just got to watch what we're doing on there. So I think, in summary on things, we're being attacked on two fronts, basically speaking. We've got reduced income coming in, and we also seen spending costs going up, as well within it. So there's two bits in it. And then, as Teresa says, on Wednesday this week, the Chancellor's going to be telling us what we're going to do or what he's going to give us or whatever. And if you take on the wages, where public sector wages are looking to be frozen, does that give us an indication that the grants that we'll get from government might also be frozen or reduced? Who knows? So we've got to watch that within it all. I don't want to sound too down in teeth or at all. There is some good news in it there, and the good news really, I suppose, is that the 0.448 million we've got from government on COVID, which has come through, and rightly as Teresa says, we have had contact with some parish councils who are struggling a little bit end of day, and they are an integral part of delivering services to the people, coupled with us and indeed county council at end of day. So we think it's only right, and it has been done in other places, is that we do spread those that 448 across the parish councils. And obviously, that's in the table on page 17. And I think it's a good thing. It'll give them that bit of support and, make things better for them. Maybe then might not have to increase the precept as a result in some cases. And that again can help people out there, which is what we're trying to do. All in all, we're okay. But we've got to keep us hand on the tiller, and we've got to watch us spend, and we've got to make sure that what we do spend does either deliver an increased service and hopefully reduce costs at the same time within it all, so that we can get through. So from my point of view, as cabinet member, executive member for finance, and it all, watch what we're doing, take care, and I'll keep reminding my colleagues along this front bench here at the end of the day that when we spend money, we've got to spend it prudently, sensibly, and deliver stuff from it at the end of the day. So the recommendations are on page 19 at 6.12 and 3. I'll take questions before I move them, or Teresa,
if you move them and get them seconded, and then...
Yeah, well, I'll move those recommendations, as I say, on page 19, 6.1, 6.2 and 6.3.
Is that seconded? Councillor McGregor's.
Can I just make a comment on
You can
that,
ask,
Chair?
yeah.
Yeah, I welcome the financial assistance that we're getting, I really do. And I can only speak what we've lost in Pinkston in our village hall. We were taking £17,000 and we've took nothing this year, so I really welcome that. And thanks, Clive, for your yet again.
I just want to point out, I just slightly forget when I'm rabbiting on as I do sometimes. We've actually got 6.2 on recommendations. So, we've got 6.1, 6.2, and the second 6.2 wants to go to 6.3.
We'll round it up at end. Any further questions? Deborah.
Just one question, please, Chair. Like Mary, I welcome that funding to the parishes, but just noting that some parishes will have lost more money than others. Others' losses will be less so. Will a letter be going out to explain to parishes why we're issuing this grant to them and encouraging them to ensure that they do spend it on the benefit of the residents of their parish area, please?
Yeah, I think that's widely understood. Yeah.
I mean, the table that we've got on there, I think it was 2014, weren't it, Teresa? We're based, was it not? But we used to have this council tax support grant at end of the day, if you remember, and we used to help council out, and we actually finished that about 2 years back now by paying it up in one lump. But it's based on sort of, on that sort of loosely to that type of thing at the end of the day. And, we're here to do what we can for everybody. And, same say, parish councils deliver vital services, as I said earlier, and we do need to, respect that and acknowledge that and make sure that we do try and help when we can. And, it's where we are.
All quiet. I think, we're in a funny old world, aren't we? We've got a bit of a balancing act to do. Whilst we're receiving cash from government, they're having to borrow it. So we're going to have to pay it back at some stage. So, we're borrowing our own money effectively. And we've got to be thankful, I suppose, that the government's doing that. And, but it is a balancing act. And the only thing they can't really control is the amount of income that we can generate ourselves. And that's what we've got to do. We really have, when we said it last year, we had a series of ambitions. It's been held up because of the pandemic. But, we've still got to crack on with that. We've still got to earn some money. And it's not, all right, this is okay for parishes. And, parishes do welcome it. They have they're front line. They've got a difficult job to do. But, we have other things to think about as well. And, we have 600 staff. We have multi-million-pound schemes in place. All sorts of different things with services that we provide. They don't cost peanuts, do they? A few million quid for environmental health and everything else, and housing and what have you. So, we have a lot of other things to consider, not just one little items. Even though it is important to a lot of people, we're all sitting here today looking at next, we're looking to the future, really. aren't we? We've got to look at businesses. If we invest in a business, that's a return because we'll get it back in NNDR, council tax, and people in employment. So we've got to look in 3 different directions at the same time. And I'm sure we'll do it. And it's been moved and seconded. The recommendations, are we all in favour? That's carried unanimously. We'll move on to the next one. And I've got Duncan, page 30.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor McGregor. Speaking on the report, the purpose of this report is to do with LDOs. They set out the reasons for adopting a local development order, granting planning permission for residential development on 3 council-owned sites. The report recommends adoption of local development orders for custom and self-build on 3 sites, subject to conditions. It is government policy that local authorities should dispose of surplus and underused land and property wherever possible. The council also has fairly wide discretion to dispose of its assets, such as land or buildings, in any manner it wishes, subject to the provisions under sections 123 and 127 of the Local Government Act 1972 and sections 87 to 89 of the Localism Act 2011. The disposal of sites can also help to reduce the council's expenditure on maintaining the pieces of land that have become a liability or no longer provide viable streams of income for the council. Therefore, to assist with the disposal of these sites and subsequent redevelopment of garage sites and other pieces of underutilised council-owned land, the officers considered a local development order could be made by the council in its capacity as the local planning authority to give a grant of planning permission for residential development in line with the planning brief drafted for each site and subject to prior approval of what would normally be considered reserved matters, which, colleagues, is landscaping, external appearance, layout and scale. Custom and build, in particular, the council has not yet granted planning permission for a sufficient number of service plots to meet the demand for custom and self-build houses. National planning practice guidance states that relevant authorities should consider how they can best support self-build and custom house building in their area. This could include using their own land if available and suitable for self-build and custom house building and marketing. It is to those on the custom and self-build register. The following conditions would be also imposed to ensure that the LDOs are prioritised for custom and self-build in accordance with the principal reasons for their adoption. Any new build dwelling granted prior approval under this order must meet the statutory definition of self-build and custom house building as defined in the Self-Build and Custom House Building Act 2015, as amended by the Housing and Planning Act 2016. The recommendations, colleagues, you will see on page 34, 6.1, that the executive consider the 3 sites proposed for LDOs having regard to the consultation responses and representations which have been received. Subsequently, local development orders be adopted to grant planning permission for residential development on the following sites: Springfield Close, Clown, Damsbrook Drive North, Clown, and Damsbrook Drive South, Clown. You will find the appendices, colleagues, to these, Appendix 1, 2, and 3 in your report. The reason for the adoption of the local development plan under 6.2 is to allow the council to obtain best value for underutilised pieces of land whilst improving the environmental quality of the district. 2, to attract private investment in this land through a simplified and less costly planning process, which provides a guarantee the land can be developed to address the council's duties under the Self-Build and Custom House Building Act 2015, and to ensure a consistent high quality of design is achieved that provides a long-lasting legacy that will benefit the local community, improve the character and appearance of the local area, and add variation to the existing housing stock. So I would formally move at this stage, Chair, the recommendations as outlined in 6.1 and 6.2 in the report.
Thanks, Duncan. Is that seconded?
Councillor Peat, second that recommendation.
Any questions? No? So you're quite happy to adopt these three sites because the recommendation is we consider, so let's consider. Are you quite happy with Springfield Close, Damsbrook Drive North and Damsbrook Drive South? All in favour of that? Anyone against? That's carried unanimously. Move on, it's you again, Duncan, on page 66.
Thank you, Councillor McGregor. The purpose of the report is to consider the first year review of the single equality scheme 2019 to 2023 and to note the achievement. I will draw your attention, colleagues, to the appendices attached to this report, but certainly highlights very much so the good work that's been carried out by the council on this particular equality scheme. Then that's on page 69 to 73. Appendix 1 illustrates the achievements and progress under each objective. It also demonstrates what the council has done under its general equality duties. Together they demonstrate a variety of work being undertaken to support and enhance the lives of customers and residents and employees too. Once they're considered by the executive, the review document will be published on the council's website and publicised. This will fulfil our duty to publish equality information at least once a year. This is an information report to keep executive informed of progress against the single equality scheme and to note achievement. The scheme has already been consulted upon.
Duncan, put your microphone on.
Sorry. The scheme has already been consulted upon and it supports equality. The review document has been taken to stand for consultation. The recommendations, colleagues, is on page 67, 6.1, that to note the progress made and achievements under the first year review of the single equality scheme 2019 and 2023.
Thanks, Duncan. Is it seconded? Seconded. Any questions to Duncan? Mary?
Comment, yeah. This shows how inclusive we are and we are statutory commitment, and I welcome this as well. And did you say it's coming out every year, Duncan? So will
Yes,
it
it
be
is.
revised every year?
It's an annual one that we have to do.
Yes, yeah, I welcome it.
I thank you for them comments. 'Cause-
Sandra?
Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Sandra Peat, Langworth Ward. Yeah, I'm really pleased that we've exceeded the annual target of 12 apprenticeships leading to 16. And I know some of our apprenticeships, they do gain employment with us. You know, majority of them do get employment with us. So I'm really pleased that we have exceeded that annual report, the annual target. And yeah, I think it's good what we're doing. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, the
Duncan?
appendix 1 clears it, Chair. It's really good. It's a good report, I think. On behalf of the council, it covers quite a lot of different aspects. And of course, the apprenticeships that you do mention, that's really good. But we have got a good policy on apprenticeships and long that may live. Okay, so I formally move.
It's been moved and seconded. We're all happy with that. Anyone against? No, everybody's in agreement. It does demonstrate, you know, that this authority achieves what it sets out to do. One of the biggest problems we have is we don't tell anybody. Last few years we've started to do it, but we need to widen the arena that we operate in. But yeah, you're doing a good job, in my opinion. I think we've got Tom in here today, and Tom's looking at exploring the housing ambitions or promoting housing ambitions. And I think, you know, we need to support Tom in what he's trying to do. I know Sandra is fully supportive of what he's doing. So that should develop over the next month or so. Perhaps in New Year, we can broadcast the fact that we built all these houses, we're still building houses, and we're going to build some more houses. So keep at it, Tom. Right, we'll move on to page, whatever page I'm on next. It's exclusion of public. Are you happy that we move the card as read? Or do you want me to read it? It's been moved. Is it seconded?
Second.
All in favour? That's carried. Anyone against? No. So are we switched off yet?